Hey there. If you don't know me, my name's Ethan. I'm an actor living in New York, and today I want to share my thoughts on the new Broadway revival of Sweeney Todd.
Josh Groban and Annaleigh Ashford star in Sweeney Todd on Broadway. Attend the tale.
For those of you that want the shortest, sweetest, too long didn't read review, 2 thumbs up. Everything about this show was spectacular, and it was one of the best audience experiences of my life. Be there or be square. And for those of you that want a more in-depth review, let's get into it. First, a little background so you know where I'm coming from. I am an actor with a degree in theater, but I am not a theater kid. I don't listen to cast recordings, I don't read plays, and I don't spend much time thinking about the world of Broadway. I saw Sweeney Todd in previews in March, and it was only my 5th Broadway show ever. I went into it totally blind, I'd never listened to any of the music, and all I really knew about the plot was that Sweeney Todd was a barber that kills people. And I really, really liked it. At first I didn't think it could possibly live up to the hype, but this is one of the hottest shows on Broadway for a reason. It has one of the most stacked casts in recent memory. Josh Groban, Annaleigh Ashford, Gaten, Jordan Fisher. It's got an incredible 26-piece orchestra, it's playing at one of the nicest theaters on Broadway, and it's Sweeney freaking Todd, the consensus masterpiece of Stephen Sondheim, who himself is one of the godfathers of modern musical theater. I'm going to give you all my thoughts in detail, but I'm going to keep things spoiler-free until the end of the review.
No spoilers!
The majority of this review is going to center around the cast, so let's start at the top and work our way down. If I had to rank the 4 leads based on the strength of their performances, I would rank them as follows. Annaleigh Ashford as Mrs. Lovett, Gaten as Tobias Ragg, Josh Groban as the man himself, and Jordan Fisher as Anthony Hope.
For a pie, sir. Do forgive me if me has a little vigo.
Annaleigh Ashford was brilliant in the extreme. I have never seen a performance like this in my entire life. Everything she did was so grounded and effortless. All of her blocking looked motivated and natural. Her timing was great, and she demanded your attention every moment she was on stage. She was also really funny, and the fact that she didn't seem like she was trying to be made her even funnier.
I know nobody cares to take them. I should know. I make them for good now.
She was born to be on stage, and she was born to play that role. She blew me away from beginning to end, and I will be extremely surprised if she doesn't win the Tony for Best Actress in a Musical this year.
Boom!
With Gaten I wasn't really sure what to expect. I've only ever seen him on Stranger Things, and I've never heard him sing before, so I wasn't sure how his skill set was going to translate to Broadway, but spoiler alert, it translated. Not knowing anything about the show, I was actually surprised by how important his role was. He did very little in Act 1, but became the centerpiece of Act 2, and he went for it. This man did not have to go that hard for us, but he did, and I'm grateful. His singing was also really good. Like, for someone who isn't known for his singing, he fits surprisingly well into this cast of vocal powerhouses. So I was impressed with his voice, his acting choices were nuanced and interesting, and the role just fit him like a glove. I don't think he's a shoo-in for Best Supporting Actor in a Musical, but I'd be surprised if he wasn't at least nominated.
Jordan Fisher, little ass, is hella fine. It's so ratchet.
I know I ranked Josh Groban 3rd, but I have a lot to say about him, so I want to discuss Jordan Fisher first. Jordan Fisher is one of my absolute favorite actors. I saw him as Evan Hansen before the pandemic, and he was transcendent. So, I know he can act, and I know he can sing. I don't think he was a good fit for this role. I got the impression that he was intimidated by the material, and he didn't bring the same ease that his co-stars brought to the table, particularly in regards to his singing. Stylistically, Sweeney Todd is a very classical show, and Jordan Fisher does not have a classical sound. It felt like he was trying to compensate for the stylistic discrepancy instead of just leaning into his natural sound. I don't know if this was his choice or the creative team's choice, but his singing lacked its normal brightness and clarity, which bummed me out a little. On an acting level, I thought the performance was fine. I just don't think Anthony's a very interesting character, so Fisher didn't have that much to sink his teeth into. Regardless, I still had a great time watching him, and he's one of my all-time favorites. I just don't think this role was a good fit for him. I think a better fit for the role might have been someone like Joshua Henry, who I know is a bit old, but tonally speaking, he'd be perfect.
My boy Bill, I will see that he's named after me.
And that brings us to the star of the show, the Groban you've all been waiting for, the man, the myth, Josh.
You're a risk taker, Anthony. I never leave home without one.
In the interest of transparency, I am a huge Josh Groban fan, and I've been a fan for quite some time. Despite how stacked this cast is, I probably wouldn't have seen the show if he weren't involved. And he did not disappoint. I thought he did an excellent job. The general complaints I've heard about his performance basically amounted to he's out of his depth here and he's too sweet. His Sweeney isn't dark or serious enough. And I can see where people who think that are coming from, but I totally disagree.
At last, my right arm is complete again.
In the world of theater, an actor has a number of jobs, most important of which is to tell the truth. And one of the most important tools an actor can utilize to tell the truth is playing an opposite. Humans are not binary creatures. We're never fully happy or fully sad. These emotions exist on a continuum, and you can't have one without the other. Finding and playing your opposites grounds your character in humanity and lends credibility to the performance. In a serious role like Sweeney Todd, an actor has to find the levity in order to balance out the malice and pain and bloodlust.
And to anyone at
I think watching a brooding, bloodthirsty Basso Supreme for 2.5 hours would have been tedious. Josh Groban stayed true to his human and played the love and the loss just as effectively as he played the hate, which grounded the performance and made the emotional stakes really clear. I also think he brought a certain subtlety to the performance, all things considered, which allowed his fellow actors to really play off that sulky, low-key energy to great effect. He told the truth, he remained himself, he played his opposites, and he made his scene partners look good in the process. Josh Groban tore it up, and I'm not afraid to say it. Also, his vocals were stunning, obviously. He's Josh Groban. Never again will Sweeney Todd sound this good.
Speak to me, friend.
Now that I've got the main four out of the way, I'm just going to rapid fire through the rest of the principal cast in the interest of time. Ruthie Ann Miles did an amazing job as the beggar woman. Great voice, great choices, she knocked it out of the park. Maria Bilbao did fine as Joanna. Like Anthony, I don't think Joanna's a very interesting character, but Maria did the best she could with what she had, and I applaud her. Jamie Jackson and John Rapson as Judge Turpin and Beetle Bamford, respectively, were both excellent, and I particularly enjoyed Jamie Jackson's performance in the song Pretty Women. He and Josh Groban sounded great together, and that was one of the highlights of the show for me. And finally, Nicholas Christopher as Pirelli. Pirelli's a super small part, but Christopher stole the show when he was on stage. He was super silly and fun to watch, and his singing voice was nothing short of spectacular. I also think the ensemble did an excellent job. I was happy to see that they weren't just a bunch of lifeless triple threats prancing around the stage like Barbies in period-appropriate costumes. They were a tight, cohesive unit that featured several plus-size actors as well as a number of actors of color. It was just nice to see an ensemble that felt like it was made up of real people that fit the vibe of the show. With the cast out of the way, I want to talk very briefly about the show's technical elements: light, sound, costumes, and set. I'm not qualified to comment on these things in any real depth, so I'll just give you my general impressions. I thought the lighting design was really cool. Not super flashy, but there were definitely some moments that got my attention. The second act in particular had some really breathtaking lighting that really enhanced the show's climax, namely in the asylum and in the basement under the pie shop. In terms of sound and sound design, I don't have a lot to say here. The orchestra sounded great, and I could hear everything the actors were saying, so well done. Costumes, same story. They seem to be of the period, well done. And lastly, the set. The set made excellent use of the Lunt-Fontaine's cavernous stage, making London feel big and bare and isolating. The pieces were intricate and modular without feeling too busy. Every transition was smooth and clear, and it was always easy to tell where the scene was geographically because the movement of the set pieces were distinct and consistent. And lastly, I'm going to wrap up this little review by discussing the content of the show, the plot, the music, and the lyrics. This won't be some wild, in-depth analysis, but there will be spoilers, so fair warning. I thought this show was absolutely freaking brilliant. The music was complex and thematic, the lyrics were sharp and clever, and the plot frankly surprised the shit out of me. From the prelude when the ensemble yanked Josh Groban out of the ground to the final sequence when he and Mrs. Lovett jumped their happy asses straight to hell, I was into it. And the plot itself didn't go the way I thought it would at all. I knew Sweeney was going to kill people and get what was coming to him, but the way it happened was not what I expected. I had an inkling that the beggar woman would be important, mostly because she had her own standby in the program, but I wasn't expecting her to be Sweeney's wife at all. I also thought Joanna would be the one that Sweeney killed by mistake when she was dressed as a boy, as opposed to the beggar woman. I guess I just wasn't expecting Joanna and Anthony to actually end up together, so that was a nice surprise. I was also not expecting Tobias to be so important to the story. I didn't even think he would live, much less kill Sweeney Todd. Because the minute that oven came on, I thought to myself, someone's going to die in Chekhov's oven, and I thought for sure it was going to be Toby, so I got a kick out of the irony of Mrs. Lovett's demise coming at the hands of her own oven. So yeah, I really enjoyed Sweeney Todd. The production exemplified theater at the highest level, and I'm grateful that I got the chance to see it. But I'd also like to hear from you. Did you see the show? And if so, what did you think? Let me know, and thanks for watching.